man. Here. Let's get this party started. Let's get it started. That is not what I needed to have happen. Get out of my way. I'm just getting set up. Just drop some comments down. Say hi. We're using some new streaming shit today, so I don't know where all the buttons are. It's not that. Where's this? All right, so sort of the solo show. We'll see who drops in, who wants to chat. I got to get this out of my way. Say hi down in the chat. Ask me anything. I don't even know what happened to the chat. Too many code windows. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. What happened to my chat? None of that. New tools, new problems. New days. It's been a while since I've been on here. I have no clue if you can even hear me in this. Zoom people. Yep, I needed that window. The hell did my chat window go? There it is. Chilling. All right. Here we go. Now we got some people. What is up? Chilling. I'm chilling too. Good morning. Keith Casey, good morning. I guess good afternoon. All right. So are my kids. Right? Look, that seems to be working. I'll put this up a little bit. Wish I could make this puppy a little wider. Let's see. Been a hot minute since I've been here. Very hot minute. Things have been very busy. Still busy, still crazy. I guess it's not a bad thing, but want to do more of these. We're switching some stuff around so that, I don't know, it looks better. I don't know if it does. I don't know how to make this window any better. Lock. Oh, that's what I needed. How do I unlock? I'll lock that. But unlock. Oh, yes. We pushed some buttons. Does that mean this? Oh, finally. I got the right damn thing. Now if I could just make this window a little more wides. I don't know how to do that. Be so nice if, like, when I did this, I wouldn't just do it live in front of everybody. All right, chat. So here I am. We're doing the things. What are the questions? Otherwise, I'm going to rant here for a little bit. And can I add comments here too? All comments, favorites. Where? So I said that I was changing shit around. I used to use StreamYard, and went back to a tool I used to use a long time ago called Ecamm, which is pretty awesome, but it got way more knobs and buttons. Here we go. This. Let's do that. What am I most excited about between now and the end of the year? Fuck, man. Just trying to get my feet back under me. That is really maybe a weekend off. I'm looking forward to just shit being normal, and it's just not normal at the moment by any stretch. Where? Actually, what I'm really looking forward to is getting a lot of clarity around my path forward. That's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm not even sure I'll even understand that. Here's a good one. How's an average day in your work life? What have you been working with lately? Well, an average day for me is a long day. We've been doing 12, 15-hour days, way too long. Right now, I have three major kind of work items going on, wrapping up that conference 2024, while also, and there's all kinds of bills and legal shit and things with that. But I also have two customer projects going on. One which needs to get out the door, and we just kind of hit staging with that. So there's been a lot of development that, and then I have another which is kind of late kicking off, and we have a release that's going out in the next few days. So it's been bang on keyboard and get stuff done and get teams ready and whatnot. So there's been an overabundance of work that has led to not doing all the things that I should be doing. Well, let me rephrase that. Not having a good balance in life. It's probably a better way to say it. All right, let's see. Whoa, don't understand. Yeah, the picture moving forward, man. It is lots just going on, lots that need to change. All good, I guess, but also kind of life-ish and needing to just do better. How do you show comments window? I've got that. Whoa. Oh, let's see how this is gonna work. Homeboy's in the green room. Will this work? Add right. Whoa.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. The hat and shirt are what I was already wearing. I didn't do a costume change for you or anything. I've got a lot of that shirts. Turns out I've been there a few times.
Hey, there's hey, nothing wrong with that. So how you been?
Good, good. I'm not sure I showed you my new whiteboard. I'm actually really proud of this. It's a 6x4, so 6 wide, 4 tall. I got it for 25 bucks, which was a really good deal. I was very happy with it. It cost like 30 cents in hardware. So I had to, like, the hooks and everything that I had were not strong enough to hold it. So I just mounted it into the studs. So you can't really see it, but there's screws up here into each of the
Yeah,
studs.
yeah,
The fun bit is, oh, actually, I'll tip it up a little bit. Yeah, so you can see the
yeah.
screws. The fun bit, though, is that I built the wall that it's on, too.
Yes,
This
you
is
did.
my free build. So, yeah, it's kind of exciting.
I speaking of whiteboards, when you were here in the office, so back in that, I don't know, that corner,
Yeah.
um, I we had a very nice glass black that you would write on with like a wet marker, and it spontaneously exploded.
Oh,
It just, if you hit like it wasn't really tempered glass, but you hit glass and then it just kind of like shatters and goes like spiders
yeah.
out. Addie was in the basement and she goes, I just heard something pop. And we're like, what? She's like, I swear glass broke. And we're looking around, can't, because we've had a couple windows in the house explode.
Yeah.
Um, and sure enough, it was a whiteboard, just
Wow.
spontaneously shattered.
You,
And
you think it
now I
was
have no
like
whiteboard.
thermal expansion or something? Or like,
I have
that's weird.
the only thing I could say is like that whiteboard, blackboard had had holes in a corner that you would screw a little mount to, and then that mount you would screw to the wall.
Yeah.
But this house is 18 years old. Like it's not moving. Like we didn't have an earthquake. Like,
Yeah.
but it's no longer. So
Wow.
now I have no whiteboard.
Okay. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean
My favorite part about this one is there's also it's metal backing. It's got all this magnet tape.
magnets.
So I've got magnets and magnet tape. So, you know, I'm thinking about
So
putting like logos or icons or something so that when I draw pretty pictures, like they have a little bit of color and shape to them.
So I need to get you a vest or a t-shirt with a magnet in the back. So just
So I could just like hang up on the wall here. The screws are not that strong. That's not gonna. It's
oh,
not gonna work.
you're more than a 20-pound limit.
Yeah, a little bit more than 20 pounds.
Oh fuck. Yeah. See Sashi's in there, Lydia. What's your questions? Ask me, ask us anything. This is just Friday. That's all. I had zero plans for this other than use tools and say words.
Let's see. Lydia says whiteboard paint is a thing. I looked into that. It's just never like a satisfying experience. And
No,
when
it's
I
not.
found this one, I got this one at auction for 25 bucks, and it's because there's two dents in it. There's a dent up here that you can't see. There's a little bit of a dent there, and then there's a dent like down here at the bottom. And I was like, wow, like a $300 whiteboard is 90% off because of that. I'll take it.
When we way back in the day, Allstate, when we were working there, they had built a new building, and every conference room. This is when it was cool to be trendy. So, what are you, dot com boom, right? So every room had one wall was a whiteboard wall, except all the walls were white, and nobody bothered to check if what the wall was that they were writing on would be a whiteboard wall. So within the first 6 months, every
Every
conference room was destroyed because somebody had inevitably thought it was the wall, went and wrote, and it wasn't the wall, and then it didn't come off.
Think of how big of like usability fail that is. All they would
Oh
have
yeah.
had to do is have a sign, like a placard that says, "This is the whiteboard wall," and put it like 7 feet up in the center of the right wall, and it would never get in your way, and they would never have had those mistakes.
There's a lot of simple solutions that could have fixed that, and none of them were in play.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was funny.
Yeah.
And then I remember later, because all like corporate places, whatever, office buildings, they'll have dark windows. So we just stopped writing on the whiteboards altogether, and we just wrote on the windows. And
Yep.
The people would, at first, like executives and whatnot would go, I don't understand. Like, why are you writing on this? It's like, it's a freaking whiteboard. Like, they're everywhere. Like, the windows get washed. The cleaning staff will wash them. We'll wash them. Like, I don't need to take over a conference room so that we can write this pseudo code out on the window. Like, we're just going to write it up here on the window.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What's the tree logo? Say go to thatconference.com, and it's the logo for all things that.
I thought it was related to Back to the Future or something.
Who was telling me? Somebody was telling me about how they met somebody the other day who was wearing the logo, and I was like, that shit never happens to me. Ever.
Well, when I was flying up to that, there was a DFW. I saw somebody mention, "Hey, I just saw somebody in that shirt." So I went back to the gate going to Madison, where I was leaving from anyway, and it ran into is it Andrew McLean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was heading up. So I was like, oh yeah, like I use it as the the that signal to make sure that we find our people.
I mean, a lot of people have sent me, which is pretty cool, sent me text messages. They met somebody in Germany, or somebody was on the top of some mountain in Utah and passing somebody on a trail. But me, shit, it's never once happened.
Do you go outside though? That might be related.
Yeah, it is a problem. I did today. I've been this purveyor of glasses now that I'm blind. And so it's total side tangent. Started with a pair, they worked pretty well, and then I went to the doctor like a year and a half ago. Got a new pair because I was blinder, and they were progressives, and made me sick. I couldn't do it. Just could not do it. So they tried readjusting them, didn't work. Of course, that was the end of like what I would be allowed for free. So essentially burnt all my vision money on glasses, and you're just kind of screwed. So then I went and bought like the cheap ones, right? The cheap $15, I say cheap, $40 glasses. Then I could see that they didn't stay on my face. So I've been on this hunt to find glasses, and I finally found a set or a brand who makes glasses that are really more aimed at like sports, athletics.
Yeah.
Roca.
Roca.
They're
All right.
they're made in Austin.
Huh.
And
Nice.
yeah, love them. They stay on my face.
So what's funny is glasses for sports have been on my mind too, because my youngest soccer starts again, and he needs his glasses, and he's takes after me, so he's an aggressive player, throwing himself into plays, and so I was trying to think of glasses. So I'm glad you mentioned that, but I kept coming back to do you remember Horace Grant for the Bulls?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he was the first one I remember with like the rec specs.
Yep.
And like that was his thing. It was just funny that it came to mind.
I mean, you're kind of stuck because I think they have to have goggles, sports goggles. We had to do the same for Addie. There was no. We didn't realize it at first. She would get in a car, on the way home from practice, and she would barf every single time.
Oh,
and
geez.
then it dawned on us she needed to wear her glasses to play because the ball hand eye coordination and whatnot was making her sick. So she'd play for a couple hours, and then she'd get in the car would move, she'd barf. Got her goggles and all that went away, and then I felt like a horrible human being for a long time.
For not realizing it sooner. You
Yeah.
gotta cut yourself a little bit of slack.
Yeah, well, there's we cleaned up a lot of puke, so I think we made up for it.
Yeah. You paid with karma up front.
Yeah. Wasn't pay it for it was pay it as it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, goggles, multi-sport goggles from Roka. Although
Roka.
those look like swimming. Those are swimming.
Do you have an affiliate code or something you should be sharing on this?
I do. I got 20% off. So if you need,
No, I think affiliate code, so you get a cut.
No, I just get to give 20% off. I didn't even get anything off on my purchase. I just get to give money off to somebody else.
Okay.
So if you want one, DM me.
All right. I'll check it out.
But I'm quite happy with them. That much is so much so that they've got a sale this weekend, and I'm gonna buy more glasses, even though not more of the same. But I basically took my progressives and split it, so I have to have two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, stupid old people shit.
Yeah.
All right, those who are on, I see you. This is kind of the Friday Ask Me Anything. Or Ask Us Anything. We're just here bucking around, shooting the shit. We ain't doing shit. This is called fucking around at lunchtime. Move the, edit the cheese on, oh, look. Oh, I figured it out. Just made you a circle.
Am I a circle now?
Oh, look at that. I found the hair. Got it. I found the things. Danger.
I've got the YouTube stream up and I don't see. Oh, there I'm a circle.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big delay.
I can change your opacity.
Oh, no.
There we go. Oh, shit.
Still waiting for it to catch up. Oh, there you go. I faded out, faded back in.
Yeah, it's a hell of a delay.
Now I'm hanging upside down.
I found the things, man. I found them.
I'm glad I'm amusing you.
Yeah. Hey, I did a thing.
Can you turn yourself upside down?
Why would I do that? That wouldn't make any sense whatsoever.
It might be useful for something.
It could be, but you actually you do that when you're you do that when yeah, I don't know. It's a dumb joke. Okay. Didn't come out. Didn't work.
Yeah, that did not land at all. Didn't even take off.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I try it. So my boys are thoroughly convinced that stands for tacos hot and tasty.
God bless them.
So, and I told them that you don't agree with that statement, but your opinion doesn't really matter. What would you know?
Yeah. That probably is the one question I get asked the most is, what does that stand for?
Have you had any good guesses other than the taco one, of course?
Nobody's ever tried to guess.
Oh. So it does stand for something then.
Stop. You're causing problems.
Not the first time.
Don't cause problems. Yeah, And I'm tired. Very
Me too.
tired.
I realized yesterday was this weekend was Labor Day, so I was like, wait a minute, that means I've actually got a day off. Which, so I only came up with a list of like 8 things I need to do that day.
Yeah. This will be the first time I've taken Labor Day off. Well, this will be maybe the second weekend in like months that I've taken off.
Mm-hmm.
Still going to end up working, but because I've got this delivery, but we were supposed to have a soccer game that got canceled. That was a couple hours away, so that's good. But like, I just look at the pile of house shit that needs to get done. Fuck.
Yeah.
All the stuff that I haven't been able to do this summer. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah. I need to mow, but it's been 100+ degrees here basically since that. And so I mowed, I think, the week before that, and I haven't mowed since. And I'm not kidding. Our grass is like 2.5, 3 feet tall right now. I could almost like harvest it and sell bales. It's a ton, and my mower is just not big enough, so I actually have to tilt it up so that the blade goes like this, because otherwise it just won't cut anything. That's probably going to be the bulk of my weekend.
Such man thing. Our writer, it was time to send it to somebody else, aka sell it. So we sold it in the beginning of the season and got a new one and got like a commercial grade mower. Mm-hmm. And I went from a job that was about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes to a job that's now 25. And that's not even me like full bore. Like the thing does 9.5 miles an hour. Like it'll do a wheelie if you punch it. So 60-inch deck, 0 turn, 10 miles an hour. See ya.
Wow.
Like done and done.
Yeah. Yeah. The areas I mow, it's probably 2.5, pushing 3 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
But I like that because there's no email. No one can talk to me. It's just like 3 hours of like walking back and forth. So
I will go. We got an older lady who lives behind us, and every other week or so, I'll do hers as well. So that extends the time a little bit, but it makes me want to have a bigger yard because now it just, one, it's really enjoyable. I mean, when you're mowing at 10 miles an hour, like you got a nice breeze, you're cool. I mean, it's cool. Like it's great until you hit that bump and you fly off the thing and realize why there's a seatbelt. But
10 miles an hour is a pretty good clip.
It's quick. You don't realize how quick it is until you fly through your yard at 10 miles an hour. Like, meow.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. We've had some last week. It's been hot, like gross hot, gross humid too.
Yeah, it's been cooler this week. It's been down to like 95, which for us is cool.
Yeah.
But it's rained every day, so it's been like I can't mow anything, and everything's growing even faster now.
Yeah. Yeah. Lydia, borrow some goats. Yep.
I am very anti-goat.
Really?
Yeah. So
surprised by that.
My wife wants goats. And she's like, oh, goats are no effort. I'm like, yeah, you said that for rabbits. And then we went from 8 to 65 rabbits in the span of a month because it turns out rabbits breed like rabbits.
Yep.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, and goats do too.
Yeah, and goats get into weird places and they climb things. And we do have a few predators around. So I'm just like none of these things are easy. They seem easy to an outsider who's never done it before. It's like can't you just add this field to the form? It's like, well, wait a second. Like, what layers are we touching here? What's that going to do? So I feel like everything comes down to that. But
I,
borrowing some clothes could work.
I have a tick. Oh, that's the right thing. Like anytime somebody just says it's just, I just want to punch them in the face. Like, no, it's not. It's not. It's just.
The word just freaks me out because I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait. Is this an informed assumption, or are you just making things up?
Right.
And usually they're making things up.
Anthony, what's up? Yeah, I can't stand it's just. That's and anytime that gets said, inevitably it doubles how long it's going to take.
Yes, and it's the person who says it's just this never has any skin in the game. They're not contributing to the effort at all. They're like, oh yeah, I mean, it's effectively like a hand wave. Like, oh yeah, just go do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh crap.
It's I heard some new lingo. The cool kids are saying, just put the fries in the bag. And
is that a response to I don't care about any of this? Just shut up and move?
Or like you're below me, if you will. It's there's so much. I don't know. I feel old. I hear what younger kids of my kids, which my kids aren't all that old, are saying. And then I think back to like when we were kids, like, did we come up with all this crazy shit? And our parents were like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yes. But I think rewind to the 90s, because you've got like 3 or 4 years on me, but rewind to the 90s and culture was much more centralized. I mean, we all had, we had a lot
Fair.
of TV channels and everything, but we were watching a handful of shows. There were like a few big like pillars that made up our culture that spread things around. Like if you heard the new song, it's because you were listening to the radio. Like there's a very limited number. Now it's much more fragmented. So I think I would wager the pace of creation of like new terms and terminology and stuff is probably the same, but the volume of it is so much bigger because it's so much more fragmented.
Not only that, like
and segmented, like it's going to move within like these circles and maybe not break out of those circles ever.
Well, you have a much better chance of it breaking out of the circles now than you did when we were growing up. So this is where you're like, if you were in California, you were Valley and you said Valley shit. And if you were in the Midwest, you said Midwest shit. Now it's like, if you say stuff in TikTok, it's TikTok versus Instagram versus. My 5-year-old keeps calling me bro face. Yep, bro. I am so sick of tired of hearing bro. I'm so tired of it. So tired of it. Bro. It's all here, all day, bro.
Yeah, I don't have too much of that, thankfully.
We got Carrie a shirt for Mother's Day. It was the evolution of kid talk. Let me see if I can find it. And it's like mommy, mom, mom shirt, mama, mom, something, bro. Yeah. Mama, mom, bro. I don't know. This is a cancel.
That sounds pretty terrible.
Oh yeah, Richard, don't say just around me, my man. Don't do it. Oh, that is a long ass URL. Anyways, that's the shirt. I have no affiliation with that. It's just the first thing I saw on Google. Here, so that's the shirt I'm talking about.
Yeah, I bet that landed well.
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't go as well as I thought. But hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How much AI are you using these days? Like in your daily regimen of shit? Because you work at a company where I'm assuming it's mostly all right. There's probably some fine lines, but
yeah,
like I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I'll answer this a couple different ways. From my stuff, so for people who don't know, I'm a PM. I work with a lot of specs. I also do a lot of like product marketing. I do some DevRel-ish kind of stuff. I support sales and everything. I would say I go in waves where there are like periods where I use it a ton. So I will like draft down an outline for something, and I'd say, okay, how would you expand this outline? Or like what I did yesterday is I had an article I'd written a few years ago, and I said, okay, how would you update this to address current trends? Like I basically use it as a rubber duck to be able to say, give me a different perspective on this, or let me start like bouncing around ideas, because I don't have anyone in my office and the dog only talks to me after I've had a few. So it's exceptionally useful there. Where I'm starting to see, and I'm actually writing a blog post on this, is I think AI, especially generative AI, is going to be the death of the SDK. Because if you think about it, an SDK right now is all about how do I make my component, whether that's an API or a piece of hardware or whatever, how do I make my component easier to use? But that's always my perspective on what's easier to use. That's not the consumer's perspective. The actual consumer of my system has a particular framework, they have particular biases, they have particular idioms that they're used to, programming languages, whatever that they're used to. And if I make an SDK that doesn't match their view of the world, it's almost useless to them. But what would be exceptionally useful is if that API or that interface is well documented and well described, then allowing that consumer to take that well documented interface and say, hey, I'm using this framework, this language, here's a sample of my code, generate an SDK for what I need. That gets to be a really interesting sort of situation, especially when, like, if we're talking about APIs like web SDKs, things like that. Error handling is pretty much consistent across the board. Retry logic is very consistent across the board. Parsing JSON, like all these things that we would normally think about, are actually super common and super predictable. So I think we're going to see a time where SDKs are almost irrelevant, assuming your interface is well documented. So, and I don't think we're years away from that. If I had to put a guess on it, I would say weeks to months, because some of the code gen tools are actually pretty solid at this point. Not excellent, but solid.
I'm going to riff on a few thoughts that you just said, which blows, and then I'm going to get back to the original question.
Okay.
I totally agree. I do not understand why more product companies like Sentry or you or somebody else has not built an LLM instead of documentation that I can chat against to say, how do I use this? What do I do in this scenario? Like, show me how to do the install, because I'm using Svelte or I'm using Node, and out shits the thing. To your point, take it a step further. Here's the SDK that you need that does your thing, whatever. It's so much more obvious than like making me go through documentation and try to figure out how the fuck I'm supposed to use your thing.
So somewhere we're doing that, we've got, like, we at Pangea, we have an integration with Copilot, so that when you're interacting with Copilot, you can say, hey, how do I do this thing? And we will go ahead and it like inserts us into it and says, okay, here's Pangea, here's what they do, here's how they address your problem. So there's beginning threads of that. And
Yeah.
to put on my sales hat for a second, when Satya from Microsoft announced it at Build earlier this year, we were one of 16 companies involved in that. It was like us and Mongo and Stripe and like those sorts of things. So I think we're getting like the leading edge of some of that. I think the next kind of logical step after that is um, just doing it. It's
Yeah.
not even making a suggestion. It's, oh, here's the code.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And that is when I think, so I've been using Copilot for a while. I haven't really been the happiest with it, but then I started using Super Maven and I was like, oh shit, like this is good. Like this shit moves quick. This shit moves at the pace that I think.
Yeah.
And which just got me thinking about all this other stuff. Like why isn't this there? And every day I just find myself using it more and more and more, right? I pay for ChatGPT. I'm probably going to pay for Anthropic. I have API keys. I use Super Maven, and those are all very code focused, but I don't use Google. I'll use Perplexity or ChatGPT. Like what I get out of it gets me way further than, the context is so much better of like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I've got these questions. Can you take me to this thing that does this with this, whatnot, right? Find me the article or find me a set of articles. Like it is scary how quickly, and I'm going to say in the last year, my habits have changed over time. We just started using Cursor the other day. It's so much quicker and better than Copilot. So Josh, yes, I tried out Cursor too. You should try Super Maven and see what you think about Super Maven. Cursor is very interesting because it's, I don't know, Keith, if you've heard of it. It's basically a fork of VS Code, and you kind of work. I don't want to say you write English to write code, but it's trying to be that kind of interceptor in between. It's very interesting. I think it's gone. I don't think in its current form, I don't see it working longer term or for big code bases because it's too much their opinionated way. Like if you want your own tools, like you got to use their thing. And it's like, now you're taking over my ID and like our integrations and kind of how we do it. But shit, it's going to change the way we think about it.
Well, and that's why when I mentioned earlier about the SDKs, I think if you can analyze your existing code and adopt the idioms and the practices you have, that's where it gets really powerful because it still might look like junior level developer code on your team, but if it doesn't have the errors that junior level developers make, that alone makes it more powerful. You still have to do code review, you still have to do auditing, you still have to understand what it does and how it does and everything like that. But pieces of it start disappearing from, or the human hands disappear from a lot of that. I had a call this morning talking about, somebody pinged me about what I thought about like no code and low code platforms. And I think that's where these tools would become the most powerful by far.
Yeah.
Because people at our level are writing code for very specific business problems. That knowledge, that understanding of the organization isn't pervasive across the ecosystem. If we could take somebody who was a wizard at Excel a generation ago, who was fantastic at Google Docs right now, and put them in front of a generative AI and let them describe their problem well, which is always the big 800-pound gorilla that's hard to do. If they can describe the problem well and point at the data sources they need, and those those data sources are described well, then a lot of those ETL problems will be solved. And if you think about it from that tech savvy business user's perspective, they make requests to the development team that are always shot down because by comparison to like real projects, their projects suck. Their projects are boring. When they've had to work with developers, since they don't speak the language of the developer, they have all this impedance mismatch where their message is just not getting across, and the developers disappear for months and come back with something that they didn't want. If they can shorten that cycle and they can get 80% in a span of days, that is game changing. So my hypothesis there is that the no code and low code tools need to integrate this stuff as quickly as possible, or they're just going to be wiped out.
So it's funny you say that. You know, I have a love affair for JavaScript behind Google Sheets and Google Docs and the whole Google Apps place. And I needed to come up with a new set of sheets that was tied to our API, and I didn't feel like writing it. And I went into Claude, or it wasn't Gemini, which I've been wanting to try, but and I was like, listen, got a Google Sheet. This is the sheet. This is what I needed to do. Whatever, just wrote it out. Like, do the, take this cell and do it with this and map this and call this API and put this menu and whatnot. And it shit it out. And it wasn't perfect, but it was 95%. And it took a half a day's worth of work of banging this stuff out to get it to nothing. And I ended up with a tool that was highly useful. Now, I have lots of experience in one, JavaScript, and two, also these little like goofy tools that we use in Google Apps. But goddamn, like, it was impressive. Yep. And I learned a few things because I was like, oh, that's a better way to loop the spreadsheet. Like, I didn't realize you could do it that way. Yeah. I didn't read the documentation well enough, or I missed it, and it did it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now go fix these functions that I'd already written that did it wrong. So
that's a cool thing. And that, I think one of the risks we have right now is that you said, is 95% there. And I think too many people are assuming that we need it to be 100%. But man, none of our code is 100% on the first pass. And so my undergrad, we've been talking quite a bit. I'm on the computer science advisory board there. And so we're constantly talking about, like, what does AI generation look like there? And so what they finally ended up doing is they have a requirements course and then immediately followed by a testing course. And so now what I believe they're just doing for this year is they take the outputs of the requirements course, feed it into a generative AI, take the output and go through the QA course. And so now they're using that to say, okay, well, how good is this code? Can we actually trust this code? And if we can't, are there hotspots where we need to pay special attention to? And are there places we can trust it? And treat this like another tool, because if you know a hammer is really good at driving nails, but you shouldn't use it on screws, that's cool. So then you use it where it's appropriate and you ignore it where it's not. But every tool has trade-offs. And the sooner you recognize that and the sooner you can make decisions based on that, the more powerful tool it is.
Yep. I love JavaScript. I don't really care about TypeScript. I get it. It's not my thing. Whatever. Typed languages are going to be really fucking important in this AI world, because why? Types, right? You gotta tell the robots what you are. So I've quickly adopting things like JSDoc. I don't know. I can't go to TypeScript route, but you're gonna need you're gonna need that stuff on your APIs if you want to be able to have something else do work on your behalf, right? You're going to have to tell the robots what the fuck it is.
Maybe, but if we go back to my thing of like the tech savvy business user, and you say, I've got this spreadsheet, you may not have to define what the columns are. if there's enough data in that column so that an AI can look at this and say, oh, well, this is a phone number.
That's true. But it's not going to call your API to go figure out what all the data is. Like, just take the further step, right? That conference have an API. Mm-hmm. Hey, go call this endpoint, but there's no schema for the endpoint. It doesn't know how to do it. If you have a schema for the endpoint, it can come back and go, here you go. This is all the things, and these are what the columns should be, and you don't have to do that other part.
So that's one side. And yes, that is absolutely my recommended preferred approach, is you've got good documentation to describe it as an input. The other side, though, is if you can analyze the existing traffic that's going to that API.
Yep, totally. Yep.
And extract it back out.
Yep. Like it's an interesting world we live in right now. To say, I use this shit more. Like, I'm using it all the time.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things I was working up at Ngrok for a while there, because we were using it as an API gateway in some use cases of, if you've got all the traffic coming through you anyway, mapping out the URLs, mapping out the parameters, mapping out here's what success codes look like, here's what error codes look like, and oh, by the way, here's the payload that mapped and generated that error code. That's an exceptionally powerful tool. So if you put something like that in the way to be able to catch all that data going back and forth, you've put a rough cut of your docs together, and it might be enough to train an engine to be able to do things with it.
Yep. I'm with you, man. I don't really, everybody's all worried that AI is going to replace your job and this and that. And I just look at it and say, now more than ever, will we be able to use humans for what humans were intended to do in the first place, which was solve problems and make money. Because rewriting the same old fucking boilerplate bullshit over and over and over again isn't getting us down the road. It's just fucking running the wheel once again, right? Run it. So,
well, and 20 years ago, when like content management systems first started becoming mainstream, everyone freaked out of like, oh, is this going to kill talent? It's like, no. Okay, stop and take a deep breath. There's a certain number of ways to edit a blog post.
Yeah.
We don't need to keep creating new ways of editing a blog post. Occasionally there might be some great improvements. Awesome. Great. But for the most part, taking some input and displaying it on a page is not something we need to innovate on. It's a boring freaking task. Building a CMS right now is just not worthwhile. Use one off the shelf and focus on something more interesting.
I love this comment. Are you saying Sentry and New Relic should create PRs to fix errors before a human gets notified that there's an error? I'm saying that should be explored, because if it could, then sure, God bless. I wouldn't have it just slam it through the system, but
right.
if you could start it for me, that'd be great.
If any of these systems could say, hey, we saw this error, we've seen this pattern elsewhere, here's a potential fix. Yeah. And I mean, isn't that why we call plumbers? Isn't that why we call electricians? Because we can leverage that expertise.
Yeah.
And it's never, or I shouldn't say never. We can't count on it being 100%. You should say
it's just.
But we can't count on it being 100%. But if it could get me pointed in the right direction to go, oh, okay, well, one, thank you. I didn't know there was an error there.
Yeah.
Two, you've isolated where it is. So now I have a whole lot less debugging, most likely. And three, you've recommended a fix. Okay, cool. Like, I've got a place to start digging.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So we've solved the world's AI problems now. Now we just need to watch out for Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all to say, I use it, I pay for it. There's value in it.
Yeah.
It's open all day. It's listening to me. Whatever. I don't care. I think I've been thinking a lot about like my kid just started college. Like, what does taking notes mean in school? Right? I'm not somebody who can sit there and take notes and like be present in that scenario, but to have my phone sit there and listen and take it and summarize it, fuck, like that's fucking powerful. Like, amen. Like, bring that on. Like that fits my brain and how I work. Um, very interesting time of school.
Well, but then
Very.
we end up with the downstream question of, then one, what do people expect to get from school? Two,
Yep.
what are we expecting to deliver? And then finally, like, how do we evaluate that? And that's evaluating it as consumers because you're buying a product there. That's evaluating it as companies trying to hire people. Like, how do we evaluate that you are going to be productive in the things I need you to be productive in?
Yeah.
I don't have any answers for any of that, but it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. It's, I even just the the act of collaboration. I mean, when I think about uh, just a simple Google Doc, right? But forget things like Coda or Notion or any of AI involved in any of this. Just the fact that two people can write in a Google Doc is, uh, like, for me, it is still so like wizardry. Like, I know how it works, obviously, but it's so fucking cool to think that you could just get in there and collaborate on a document, everybody all together, and to think like in a college scenario or any team scenario where you could just
Yep.
get in, get it down, get it there. Like, just how cool. Like, that shit's so much easier today. I don't know. Adam, the act of taking a note was the thing that committed things to memory. Yeah, that's not, it was
Yeah.
just a distraction for me.
No, I
But I
work
get it.
primarily on paper.
Yeah, I like paper.
I mean, I've got a notebook and I fill it. So yeah, I don't know.
I Carrie and I were just talking about, what the fuck was that thing called? No, that's not it. Have you guys deployed anything with an LLM besides coding alongside of it? I know. I've wanted to build my own LLM. I have things that I very much want to, but have not had the. I mean, part of what we built that conference or that.us for was to have an LLM that could connect people, but just have never gotten that far. I would have to imagine you in the security space would have some shit in the background that I'm not speaking for you or anything. I have zero knowledge, but all I can do is assume that anybody who has a security platform would have something that has AI in the background to do some interrogation as to what's going on.
That is a very interesting hypothesis there. And let's see. In a couple weeks, once some things are published, I may be able to give you a different answer. But if it comes down to, if you know what normal is, if you know what expected is, then when things step out of that, that's exceptionally powerful. And that's like on the after effects side of things. But on the input side of things, like I said, with like the no code, low code sort of stuff, the vast majority of tech savvy business users will never think, oh, wait a minute, this is PII. Let me make sure I'm protecting this well. How do I redact this going into my model in the first place? Because when I say who is Clark, I don't want your social security number coming up. That's an unacceptable scenario. But the more we can sort of detect that information going into the system in the first place, and then potentially remove it on the output, if it does make it in, that starts to get really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things I found, this is rewinding couple careers ago, a bunch of jobs ago at working for the government in classified scenarios. It was fascinating how often classified data in itself was made up of completely public, easily findable data sources. It was when you put the three, four, five, 10 pieces together that suddenly you were able to draw conclusions that you couldn't before. And that now became sensitive. That became classified data. And so I think from a security perspective, that's one of the things we're going to have to deal with. Um, I've given this presentation called Social Media for Social Evil a number of times, where I've talked about using people's social media accounts against them to address things like security questions. And there's always a thing of, posting when you're on vacation and stuff like that. But once we have systems that are doing that at scale, man, that's a different world. That's a different world, and we're not thinking through the consequences and implications of that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was talking with somebody the other day. They were talking about their pictures, and they have so many of them. They had 80,000 pictures. It was a friend of mine. 80,000 pictures on their phone, and they can't find anything. And they were starting to ask, like, well, what do I do about that? And this and that. I said, you don't do anything. Just wait. Wait 6 months, a year.
Yep.
Like, you're going to be able to use AI to sit there and just go find all the pictures of me. I mean, it sort of does it now. I'm like, you're going to be able to look at that 80,000 without having to do anything. Like, it'll be here. When just keep taking them. It'll come.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if you remember, between Twilio and Okta, I worked at Clarify, and Clarify was all about making audio and video searchable. And at that point, doing object recognition in video, this was circa 2014, was super novel. But our whole pitch was, if you need to find a truck, we can find every time you said the word truck and every truck in your video. And in fact, in some cases, we could identify the model of the truck. That was 10 years ago on like a much smaller data set. What you can do now is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And I kick myself for being too early.
Yeah, Google Photos, they have it. Apple Photos has it. It has it, but it's also not perfect. And it doesn't, like, they certainly don't find me all the time or the thing, but it's there. Like, it's coming. It's coming to where it'll be so friggin' useful, because it'll be find me in a blue shirt, with a tree behind me, and it's going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and find all the pictures from, my trip to London featuring this particular landmark. Like, that's going to be trivially easy, because you can look at the date, you can look at geolocation, you can look at the contents of the video or the image. Like, all that stuff is just, it's already there. We just haven't made use of it yet.
And you in your head, you remember that you were at that place in London, right? So once the two tie themselves, it's there.
Yeah. Especially if it's smart enough to show like the fuzzy matches, and it says, hey, look, here are the ones we're totally sure of. Here are the ones we think might be, because then even if it's 95% accurate, which is a fantastic state to be, you can review the last stuff yourself and go, yeah, that applies or that doesn't.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, the world of AI. How good it is. All the AIs.
It gets really fascinating, though, when we start thinking about it from a darker perspective of, we always look at surveillance, and we always look at like that kind of scale of stuff. Of, if we look into like some of the laws around it, that was the laws about surveillance. And Habeas Data is a fantastic book on the subject by Cyrus Farvar, I think. but most of the laws were structured around the idea that there is a person sitting here watching this and listening to calls and deciding to hit record or not record, whatever. And so therefore there was a constraint in terms of what data could be collected and what kind of scale it could happen on. When we remove a person from the loop and we're like, no, actually we're capturing everything and we're analyzing it at our convenience later on, that's a different game. And that's not a pleasant game.
Well, everybody's got our social security numbers and all that shit already anyway. So,
oh yeah,
I know that sounds so pessimistic of the world, but I don't know how many more security breaches there need to be at this point. Doesn't everybody have everything? Like,
that's a reasonable conclusion, unfortunately.
I don't feel like I have anything left. You've hit all the major stores that I've been to: the Target, Home Depot, Credit Bureau. What's left?
Oh, geez, not many.
What was the last one that just got hit?
It was the personal data or whatever. It was. It said it was 2.9 billion people, which is not correct. It's more properly described as 2.9 billion entries. And so you could have multiple entries. Like for you, it might have an entry for every address you've lived at in the last 20 years. So it's a little bit different, a little more nuanced, but fundamentally, it's not really a big difference.
I think all Brazilian data has been leaked multiple times. Yeah, well, just like all U.S. data has been sold.
Yep.
Facebook. Yep. Whoever, what was that other thing they were using? I forget the giant data farm. Anyways.
Whatever. They're all giant data farms, aren't they?
Yeah. All right, my man.
All right. Yeah, hey, I should get going.
It's good chat to the crazy amount of people who are on here. Thanks for listening. That's just bullshit. Thanks for coming. Yeah. And I got the squares right. They work now.
Yeah.
It looks pretty, sort of pretty.
Yeah, I saw my icon. I've got YouTube up over here, so I've seen my stuff move around a few times, and you're antic. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get the tools working better. I don't know. One day we'll get it. I'm going to get back there set up properly.
Nice.
But today, hey, it's over. So thanks for being here. Thanks for wasting your time with me. Get back to work.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Why don't you go log in somewhere?
Yeah, I will. I'll do that. All right. See you. Have fun.
Peace out. See you,
everyone.